Hello and welcome to the 24th episode of the We All Serve podcast. I'm back with Angel Torres, the one and only, as we were just talking actually about that story of the freedom isn't free. I don't think you actually shared that story when we were live. So, Angel, you always have a cool background. I mean, I kind of wish you would change things up a little bit but keep things exciting every time I'm somewhere else. And so viewers will know I never have the same background twice.
Slow and steady. Yeah, the last time we had your dog online on the air, and she was doing really good. I think you were he. Well, it was a he, but now it's a she because I know how you went with that dog. It's very pissed off. It goes and gets all excited and got nothing there, no equipment. It's not good. But yeah, the sign "Freedom Isn't Free" is I got it at a Folds of Honor golf event. And it was a charity event for Folds of Honor, and they collect money for and raise funds for military veterans' children to go to college. And it's a really, really great cause. And I had the opportunity to golf with General John Boerling, who was a POW for a few years in Hanoi Hilton with Senator McCain, and was released, wrote a book of poems, was eventually the chairman CEO of United Way Global, and just such a great patriot and tough guy, because it was freezing rain and we were golfing, and I wanted to go in, but I didn't want to say that I wanted to go in because it was so cold, because the old guy was out there, and if he wasn't going in, I wasn't going in. So we just all sat there shaking our clubs and stuff until he decided the ice on the rain and the golf carts wasn't good for the green. So we kind of wimped up, and then I won that in a raffle or secret auction or something like that. So it's definitely the pride of my office. One of my favorite things in there.
How many people lost their lives in order for you to get that beautiful piece of art?
It was on the south side when I got it, so there was quite a few. I mean, it was quite a few. I mean, I was biting ankles. It was like going to the Navy Exchange on Black Friday.
Yeah, dangerous times. Dangerous times.
There I was.
Yeah. Don't get between a recruit at Great Lakes and their Red Bull or something like that. But you still do Red Bull, right?
No. I'm into the monster drinks now.
Monsters, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotcha. I'm wielding away my kidneys one at a time.
And you just had some oral surgery, so
I did.
On behalf of all the tens of millions of viewers and subscribers to the We All Serve podcast, a speedy recovery to you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I can still talk, so speaking is not an impediment for me right now. So I'm good.
Honestly, I intentionally scheduled this episode. Todd will love this because I figured you might say some of the most entertaining things this week.
Good. That's why I'm glad I got good drugs.
Absolutely. So yeah, excited for our conversation today. But before we get into it, as I always do, I did want to give a reminder to our viewers, listeners, wherever you might be tuning in. Click subscribe. If you're listening to this pre-recorded, click subscribe, rate, and review. It makes it easier for people to find the podcast. And we do broadcast this live.
And share it while you're at it.
Share it. That's right. Share it. Absolutely.
The more veterans we reach out to, and the more veterans we are able to connect with, the better we feel about our programming and the ability to support and help our brothers and sisters navigate the transition and find their way in their post-military career.
Spot on. Agreed. And as much as we joke around, We All Serve really is a theme. It is a message. Ultimately, I've been saying this every week, regardless of what uniform you put on, regardless of whether you put a uniform on, we all serve. And this is a time that everybody needs to step up and check on your neighbors, check on your friends, check on your family. Everybody has the opportunity. And certainly our conversations have led us to learn from folks that have put the uniform on. And learn from them, and hopefully inspire new ideas and ways to help, as you said, Angel, make that transition even easier. So,
I'm people coming up, not just today. We have some amazing people coming up in the future podcasts. I'm really excited about some of the speakers and people who have decided to join us and share their testament, their story with our listeners and our viewers.
Absolutely. So our amazing guest today, Todd. So he's a former Army. I just want to again underline that Army over here. And
did they have a football game last week? Was there a game there somewhere?
Oh, Angel, give me a minute. I want to make sure Todd's on here too, because it will be 2 against 1, and we're gonna talk about that, but we'll get there. Todd was is a former Army intel officer. Graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication, and is a commissioned through ROTC, I believe, at Hofstra University, and used to actually commissioned, I believe, originally as a second lieutenant in a combat engineer battalion, or was assigned in a combat engineer battalion, and it was there that he learned the importance of teamwork and loyalty. And Todd was in South Korea, which he says was an experience that left him humbled and eager to learn more.
It left me cold.
Continues to live by the phrase "never give up," which is that mantra that has led to many of his successes. Todd is the host of the Founder to CEO podcast, and founder and CEO and a coach. So excited for this conversation. Bring him on over here. There he is. There's that.
Hey guys.
There we go.
The man.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you.
Step your game up, Shalom. He's got the badass mic. I have Mike MB. Usually something else, MB.
A lot of Navy people say that, by the way.
I know.
He hosts a real podcast, Angel. We are just amateurs trying to professionalize over here.
Yeah, right.
Todd has been doing this.
Baby steps.
You guys crack me up.
Man. But Todd, such a pleasure to have you. So let's get right into it. I want to get started in the beginning. You decided to become a cadet in ROTC. What in the world made you make that decision to join the Army? Do you come from an Army family? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
No, I don't really come from an Army family, but I enlisted first. I was a 98 kilo, and really enjoyed all that training in the SIGINT world, and was in Berlin right after November 9th, 2009, when the wall was coming down. And so I was there, and just watching how things happen, and as an E4, and the Green to Gold scholarship application came up. It's kind of like what do you guys call it in the Navy? The Mustang, is that right?
Mustang is when you've been in for I think you have at least 4 years, and then you get commissioned.
Yeah.
So then we have LDOs, which are old guys that have been in for like 12 to 15 years, and then they commission.
Yes, that was not that one.
Todd, not to digress too much, I just heard the coolest phrase the other day. Angel, it's a little different in the Navy, I think, but do you know anybody that was enlisted, warrant, and commission officer?
No, do you?
I do. And you know what you call them?
No,
I don't know if it's true.
What?
I heard they're called unicorns. I kid you not.
Are you serious?
No. We call the warrants because unlike the Army, with the Navy, you have to be an E7 at least with 12 years in before you can commission as a chief warrant. And in the Army, I think you guys can convert it like W1 or something like that. And the Marines do it too. In the Navy, you have to be at least E7, and then you get your commission when you're selected. So you jump straight to W2. And warrants are usually unicorns, but the guys that very few designators allow you to go, from like W3, and then they take them to O2 and just kind of move them over. It's very rare. I don't even know if they do it anymore, but most of the time they call the chief warrant officers unicorns.
Okay, that's too funny.
I felt like a unicorn when I was in Berlin. I got that scholarship to go back to school.
Free money. Let's go.
Exactly. So went back to Hofstra, right? And then I went back to Hofstra, and then graduated and went back in the Army as an Army intelligence officer, which was really strange because at some point in time, a lot of my friends had grown up the enlisted ranks, and my drill sergeant that. When I was in AIT, Advanced Individual Training, in Pensacola, Florida, she ended up being one of my squad leaders in my platoon when I became an officer. She was amazing, but it was like this most surreal experience. Like, wait a second, the world has just shifted in my mind.
You're a real person now.
Oh right, exactly. Yeah. So
you have a voice that isn't this high and this octave. And this the decibel level? Oh my God! What do I do?
So I reminded her of how she made us move a dirt pile from one side of the building to the other side, and I asked her, "What was the purpose behind that?" Right? She says, "Oh, there was no purpose behind it. I knew
it." We just want to see you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So that's
what do you enjoy more, being enlisted or an officer?
Oh wow, that's a really hard question. I mean. I had a lot less responsibility when I was enlisted. I was just, I just went up to becoming an E4. I really love being an Army officer. I mean, there's a certain amount of fun that you have, and I just love the people that I got to work with. I mean, as you know, we have some of the best people in the military in the Army, and
Angel can tell you that you can be an officer without actually taking on any responsibility.
True. I got my rollerblades to prove it.
That's so funny.
Skating around.
Yeah. No, I love both, but of course, I wanted to become an officer because I felt like I wanted to be able to do more, be more, be all you could be. That was the motto way back then. But I really enjoyed it, and was fortunate to serve in a lot of different places, and Bosnia during the war, as you know, Korea, and throughout the United States and a lot of other places. So.
Hey, I was wondering, have you ever been colder anywhere in the planet that you were in Korea? Because I'm from Chicago, and Korea was the coldest I've ever been in my life.
Dude,
it was like a bone aching cold.
I tell everyone that.
Believe me. I'm like, dude.
I'm seriously. Literally, long underwear, right? Regular uniform, the Gore-Tex, polypropylene, the bear suit, right? All that,
and hand warmers.
And still, and the problem was no one ever wanted to go outside to use the porta potty, right? Because you got to take all that stuff off. So the engineers I was with, they are smart guys. You know what they did? They create a little hole in the tent, right? Put a pipe and pull it out, long distance, and they had their own little pee pipe inside the tent.
That's what they do in the aircraft too, like
yeah, exactly.
Helicopters. Go in the back, work it out.
Exactly. So I learned a lot from those engineers.
Yeah. So let's talk about your education, ROTC. What was ROTC like, and was it everything that you expected and hoped it would be?
Well, it was a lot of work because I was also a resident assistant at the same time. I was the cadet battalion commander. Now I think we had 100 cadets in our battalion, our ROTC battalion. So
that's a huge responsibility.
Well, yeah,
but E4 you babysat in the Army, but now you're really babysitting.
Yeah, but we had a lot of support, right? Great NCOs that supported our success, and a lot of great officers, and it was good. I learned a lot. When you're in ROTC in the Northeast, I think it's a little bit different than you do ROTC in the South, because in order to go do training, you can't just go out your front door. Like, you got to drive to places through New Jersey and the traffic, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, now we're going to go do these training in this woods area, right? And so I think it's a little bit different when you do ROTC in New York than you might do it in, South Carolina, whatever.
Wow, cool. And then you, so again, you're an MI officer.
Yes.
So that means you're smart.
Well, that's debatable, right?
Smart enough.
I just realized something. MI, military intelligence. Sorry, that was my translation for the world.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, he said SIG signals intelligence earlier.
Yes, that's right. So, no, I'm not so sure that's the requirement. I think you have to learn how to do PowerPoint slides. That's the most important requirement. No, I shouldn't say that. That's
You're downplaying. You guys are very, very savvy. You're strategically gifted and know how to piece things together really, really well.
Wow. That's quite nice of you. Listen, I have warrant officers and a lot of non-commissioned officers who made me look very bright on a number of occasions. After 9/11, I went back on active duty and worked at MacDill Air Force Base for CENTCOM, and during that time period, we were trying to track Osama bin Laden, and I ran a fusion cell, and it was a lot of hard work, but we had just some amazing people. I had a lot of Navy people on my team too, if you imagine that, and just incredible people that do all the hard work, and I just kind of put it all together and make sure they show up to work, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Angel, take it away.
So when you were doing was it training or you were up? Because I'm trying to follow the timeline. There was a Bosnia piece.
Yeah.
There was an Osama bin Laden piece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how long were you in?
12 years total.
Wow, that's tough to decide to get out because most people just say you make the hump, the 10-year hump, and then you kind of bounce.
Yeah.
So what kind of drove? Because that's tough. You know, you figure you're doing 8 more years and you get a retirement. What kind of drove your decision to make that change?
Well, I left active duty in 1998 and went to private sector. And actually, the job I took was coaching military officers as they leave the military and helping them find jobs. And so when 9/11 happened, I got called back in active duty. I was in the very first group of like 10 inactive, ready reserve IRR officers who wanted back on active duty. And then spent a year doing that. And then when I got back home, my amazing wife, who was relatively upset that her new husband of a few months had to go back in active duty, asked me if I'm going to resign my commission and if I'm going to be going all around the world again. And I said, yeah, okay. You know, and so it's hard. You know, you all know it's very hard to have a family life when you're in the military. And I left active duty because I wanted to have a family. And so then when I'm in the IRR, I got called back on active duty. And so I resigned.
You have a family life. You just have a lot of families.
You just have a lot of families. Yeah. That's true. That's a good way of saying it. No, it was just hard. And my wife was a physician. And so it's very difficult scheduling wise and whatnot for me to do all that kind of crazy stuff anymore. So I resigned my commission in 2003.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the Founder to CEO podcast. And really, let's rewind from post-military to where you are now. So, catch us up.
Well, I came back off of active duty. The consulting company that I was working with, all my work was gone. So I had to basically start my whole practice all over again. And ironically, I had invited a friend of mine, fellow Army officer, who hired me in my previous job to say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a year. They're looking for someone to replace me. We want me to introduce you. And he got my job. And then when I came back, he was doing a pretty good job in my job, and they didn't really need me. So I had to find my
own compliment to your training.
I guess. I didn't do any training for him. He's a great guy. But I had to find my own entrepreneurial spirit inside this consulting company. And there was a moment in time when I said to myself, wait a second, if I have to put all this effort into creating this new consulting practice within this organization, why am I doing it for someone else? So I took my wife out to dinner, gave her a 35-page slide deck to convince her that my buddy Kyle and I would start our own coaching company. And after some wine and some steak at a nice little restaurant, she says, okay, all right, let's do this. And I was like, oh, yeah. So my investor, my wife, said, all right, let's do this. And we haven't looked back since. We've been very blessed to be able to grow a consulting company ever since then. So I'm very fortunate that my wife helped back all that in the very beginning.
I thought you were going to say 35-carat ring.
No,
I was like, that's a good motivator.
That's right. No, that came in 2001, but I don't think it's that many carats. Yeah. So you mentioned the podcast. So it was about 2011, 2012 that we started noticing that the coaching marketplace was changing. The internet was changing the delivery of coaching and whatnot. And so well before COVID, we've been delivering coaching, virtually over Zoom and other mechanisms. And we just decided, we need to find some niches that we can really kind of sink our teeth into, because we had a default geographic niche for our coaching company, which was Cincinnati, Ohio, and then it naturally grew out of there just by relationships. And so we first launched Daughters in Charge, which is a platform that helps coach daughters in family-owned businesses. My colleague Amy runs that. And then I started getting lots of phone calls from founders in the Midwest that were graduating from accelerators. And they were like, Todd, we heard about you. We heard you're really good. Can you help coach us? And so our business model was not set up for founders. We were too expensive and we were too heavy in terms of the engagement. Anyway, long story short is I said, well, podcasting is kind of taken off. Maybe I'll interview founders, successful founders. about the mistakes they made during their journey from founder to CEO that has transformed them the most as a leader, because that's what I do all the time. I help people with their leadership. And lo and behold, they wanted to listen to my goofy person and all these great guests, and mostly they want to listen to the great guests about their journey from founder to CEO. So 5 years later, we've had the founder of Zoom and Netflix and Dunkin' Donuts and a whole bunch of other companies come on the show and talk about their anti-hero story.
Wow. And it's amazing because you were certainly ahead of your time in the development of this as a platform. And it's interesting. I just had this conversation earlier. Can you recall the last time somebody used the term Skype? It's like they missed the mark over here.
I did it yesterday, and I did it at the same time as I said a Walkman.
Oh, you said Walkman. Whoa.
I did that in formation when people were in formation, and the sailors were looking at me going, "What the hell is a Walkman?" And they're like, "Senior Chief, you want your audience?" Yep. Okay. All right.
That's right. That's like early 80s. Come on now.
So bad. Man. It's all a blur, man.
You certainly were ahead of your time in the development of this. And I have to ask, how was your time in the military formative in the development of you as a business professional, and also how you sort of coach and inspire others?
Yeah. There's a lot. Obviously, we learn a lot in the military. It is one of the greatest leadership development programs on the face of the earth, the U.S. military. And I think there are two things that I often share with people. One is there are always setbacks in the military. Always. Something always goes wrong. And if you stop to get upset about everything going wrong along the way, you never get anything done in the military. You wouldn't win anything, right? And I think it's the same thing as an entrepreneur, as a founder. I mean, you just can't get upset with the fact that things are not going to go right as they more frequently go in a large corporation where there's lots of resources and people to be able to handle things. So I think that never give up attitude that you mentioned before is probably one of the biggest things, because it's just when you've been beaten down many times by numerous situations and people, you just say, okay, I'll learn how to get back up again, right? And you do. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things. But you guys feel the same way about that, right?
You know, I was just thinking about that, and I have my own company where I help companies teach them how to recruit and onboard and develop business resource group around military veterans. And the one thing is, you're telling me this, as I'm thinking to myself, at what point does Todd provide insight on, for me and just for everybody else who might be listening, thinking about starting their own business? The question that's always running around in my head is, what am I missing? What's next? How am I? Because when you look at the openness of having your own business, and you say, okay, here's all this opportunity, but where do I fit into it? How am I driving? How am I going to capture it? How am I going to set my mark? How am I going to be able to take care of the people at the table? And what do you guys do on your podcast that kind of sheds that light on that? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. No, keep going. You're good.
Well, you bring up a very important point, because I worked for Orion, one of the largest military recruiting companies, when I first got out, as I mentioned. And, the truth is that our true self is often cloaked in our military uniform. And understanding who we really are, what we're passionate about, what we really love to do is the core essence of that. And so I spent a lot of time, my free time, helping a lot of military people in their transition, just helping them figure that out. I just got done helping a Marine Corps captain for a year on Saturday mornings at 7:00 in the morning, helping them kind of work through that out, figure out, okay, what do you really love to do? Don't tell me what you did in the Marine Corps. I don't want to know that, because you may not have liked it. What have you always loved that maybe you didn't spend any time doing when you were in the military? Because oftentimes those are the seeds of greatness, because they really uncover what someone's true purpose here is on earth. And unfortunately, we get caught up, my humble opinion, in figuring out, well, how do I translate my skills from the military into X, Y, Z? And I'm like, I'm not so sure that's the first question you need to be asking, right? Because
I always say the first question is, who am I?
Right.
No,
exactly.
For real. I mean, I'm not joking. I'm like, who are you? Because everything else is gonna lay out from there. If you're, 3 foot, 5, are you gonna be in the NBA? I don't know. Probably not.
Right.
Who am I? Take a hard look.
Exactly.
Todd, if you were to do it all over again, the military, start from scratch, what would you do the same? What would you do different?
Oh, like my military path, you mean?
Your military path, would you do it again? Let's start there.
Yeah, probably. I probably would.
Please, just as long as you say you wouldn't join the Navy or something.
Well, I would say it's funny you say that because sometimes I feel like I would have been a better Marine than an Army officer. I don't know why. I have a lot of Marine Corps friends. I seem to hang out with a lot of them, and I just talked to one the other day who just retired as a lieutenant colonel. He and I worked together, and I don't know. So maybe the Marine Corps, I guess, but I appreciate their clarity of mission frequently. Sometimes in the Army we get a little convoluted with our mission, and so maybe I appreciate that. But I would definitely do it again. I mean, I am the man I am today because of all those experiences, and not only that. But oh my gosh, the number of people who have spoken into me and helped me be able to develop. I mean, gosh, Captain Maurice Bland, when I was a platoon leader in Fort Gordon, Georgia, I learned so much from him about what not to do because I made mistakes and what to do. And he told me, okay, Todd, this is good. You're doing this. And just there's so many people in the military who have helped shape me to be able to be someone now who coaches CEOs of Fortune 100 companies now for a living and high growth founders. I mean, I would never be able to do any of this, have the confidence or the knowledge or the insights if I didn't have all those people speak into me,
Well,
and go through adversity. I mean, I think adversity, a lot of us walk into it and say, walking into this boardroom, well, it can't be any worse than walking in. And when you were a Marine Corps, when you were a military intelligence officer, I've briefed CEOs all the time. They're called generals.
Exactly.
And like, how is this any different? The clarity and being succinct and being articulate and being quick is all the same thing.
Yeah.
No, you build that courage and a sense of confidence.
It's funny you say that because people always say to me, hey, Todd, how'd you go from an Army intelligence officer to being an executive coach? And I said, well, it's really the same work, but with a different purpose. They said, what do you mean? He says, well, previously I was asking lots of questions of senior leaders that they didn't have answers to help them think through things for the purpose of finding and killing someone. And now it's for the purpose of helping them influence people in an organization to be able to do positive things.
We call it eliminating threats.
Very PC. Yes. Sorry, I had a flashback. Sorry. I felt like I'm back in the Army again. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm here to finesse it.
Thank you.
Trying to make it nice for the Army guys. It's
right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Cool. See, I should have been a Marine Corps officer, right?
It's funny. That's good.
You got the right haircut.
You beat me on the other question, Todd, because I was going to ask you who you could point to as key mentors or formative figures in your military career, and you already pointed to that captain. So that's awesome. So podcast work, what's next for you?
Oh, wow. So our hope is to create a personal development accelerator for founders. Founders struggle significantly. The world right now puts a lot of pressure and expectations on founders, and founders put their own expectations on themselves. And so what I find is that there's usually not a lot of time for founders to be able to do the types of things that all three of us have gained the benefit of that development when we're in the military. But founders don't get that because they're trying to scale themselves as fast as their business is growing, which is really hard. And so From Founder to CEO is our podcast where we help share all those stories. And in 2021, we'll be launching Founder Life and some other programs that help founders be able to develop themselves so they too can be able to make sure they get something out of this experience being an entrepreneur.
It sounds a lot like what Bunker Labs does with their veteran in residence program and things like that.
So Todd, who is the founder,
Todd is great. Love that guy.
He's amazing. We had him on the podcast a couple months back.
Did you?
Yep. Todd does a great job at Bunker Labs. I would put them in the category of a little bit more of a military veteran accelerator, incubator, assistant. And what we're working on is kind of developing those softer skills development that founders often need to be able to grow as a leader. And so it's a little bit different about, he's really helping them launch the business. We're focusing on the individual.
Thank you for providing that clarity. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. And I just put up there on the screen the link to your site over there, founderceo.com.
Thank you.
Hopefully folks will come out and check it out. So Angel, as always, I'll go to you for the final questions.
Yeah, this is all really great and inspiring stuff. Like I'm like, okay, I missed that. He probably knows this. He probably knows this. And as a founder and CEO, that I'm asking myself a lot of those questions. How can our listeners and our viewers, besides going to your website, is there someone they can email, or is there someone that's gone through your program and say, hey man, this really worked for me?
Yeah, well, and I've got a lot of people on my LinkedIn page who have written very kind referrals about what we do and whatnot. Just listen to the podcast. And if you have a question about something, send me an email. For some reason, people have found my mobile phone overseas. I got a phone call from Pakistan a couple of weeks ago, and it was really strange. And
that's from your Army days when you were scouting out. That's when you were scouting out Osama bin Laden.
No, a little worried about that sometimes.
Dude with 3 goats was going, hey man, you owe me $20.
Right, exactly. No, yeah, I mean, anyone can email me at Todd from founderceo.com, and I try to be as super helpful as I possibly can. There's so many people who have helped me become successful at this point in time, including all these great people in Cincinnati. And I'm not from Cincinnati, and they kind of welcome me in and help me grow my business. So I'm always happy to help.
Well, we're grateful that you joined us here. Hope everybody will check out the podcast and learn from your story. Again, former military intelligence officer, and now from founder to CEO, host, coach, executive, all of those wonderful things.
And just a good dude.
Oh, and just thanks. A good dude, just a really, really good dude. And honestly, Todd, you and I we met for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and really just hit it off. And I can't wait for our next discussion. So, natural guest for this show. And as I always do, again, as I started the show, I'll end the show. Make sure you click and subscribe, rate, review, share. Makes it easy. And make sure while you're on the podcast platform, make sure you're subscribing from founder to CEO. I was just looking at some of your recent episodes, Todd, and just awesome conversations. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.